charting your healthcare career, choosing or changing your career in the current economy. And so, as you heard from Dominica, the console is open to ask questions, and I'm going to be introducing our success story from SurroundHealth from the SurroundHealth community in just a few moments. But I wanted to just tell you what today's goals are. We're going to be talking about how to identify where I am right now in my career. We're going to figure out how we can understand why and what I want to change and why now. All three questions are very vitally important as you make your career change plan. We're going to identify opportunities that are right for me, that's the what, and figure out how to identify those opportunities. We're going to create the strategic plan that will allow for that change, and we're also going to learn how to execute that plan professionally. But before we make any change, no matter what change it is that we're making in our career or our life, I want to just point out and say to you all in this community, congratulations. Congratulations that you recognize that you either need or want to change, or that a change has presented itself to you. And I say congratulations because I want to remind you that even when we're feeling at our lowest, like I know some of our members may not be, may be either newly unemployed or may have been having trouble finding a job, finding a career that they enjoy, you still have control. The reason you have control is because you have choice. The reason you have choice is because you have control. You're deciding what choices you choose for your career. You're deciding what opportunities you select. And that really does give you an incredible amount of power. And so I want you to always remember that you control your career. You make the decisions. You're in the driver's seat. There are always going to be outside stimuli and outside factors that influence your choices. And we're going to talk about those in a few minutes too. But at your lowest or at your highest, always remember that you're the one who's in control and you hold the power. And that's just a terrific feeling to have. So this is a great time for change, particularly in healthcare. As many of you know, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's a projected 25% growth in jobs in the healthcare arena. And why are these new opportunities coming up? Well, part of it has to do most definitely because of the healthcare reform laws. You know about those. But we also have the influence of incredible number of baby boomers. I can't remember the number right now, but there's huge amounts of people who are turning 55, 60, and 65 every year, which is creating opportunities in healthcare. And as technology increases and improves, there's all these opportunities for people who have technology experience and expertise, or the ability, the resourcefulness to learn how to use different types of technology. And related to the technology is the upgrades in IT systems and the information technology systems that hold the data and allow professionals like yourselves to secure that data, to exchange that information with other healthcare partners, and to understand and extract that data to be able to gather information about different communities. And so there'll be more opportunities for RNs, for PAs, for technicians, for community health pros, and certainly for people in healthcare IT. And speaking of healthcare IT, I'd like to introduce our success story. Karen Fradua, an MS and an MCHES, is embarking on a new journey right now. She's already knee-deep in it, but she's doing great. So Karen is 54. She spent the last 10 years of her career as a community health director in the South Carolina Department of Health. And then, boom, baby, she had a change. She fell in love. And her new husband lived in New York City, so she moved to New York City. So that necessitated a change. And Karen had realized that there was something else that she wanted out of her career, and we're going to go into that in a few minutes. And so now she's pursuing a new opportunity in health information management. So I'm going to talk more about her. Her story is going to be weaved into this webinar so you can see an example from one of your brethren of how you can do this changing and charting your career and changing your career in this economy. Karen, is there anything you'd like to say at this moment?
No, I think you've covered my story pretty well. The one thing that I did want to say is that Alaina is going to be sharing a lot of really good information, resources, and steps on how anyone can begin and transition through a career change. But I want everyone to understand that it is a process, and it's not something that takes a week to do. I've been working on this almost a year now and still am not finished with my process yet. And but I know that it's going to take everyone a little bit different amount of time to get through these steps. But what I can assure you is that if you decide you want to go down this road, that the outcomes and rewards at the end of this process are well worth the time and effort that you devote to it. So just keep that in mind as you're listening to Alaina's presentation.
That's a great point and a great attitude, Karen. Thanks for pointing that out. And you also make a really good point about the fact that the process is different for everybody, and some of the steps that we're going to be outlining today might not be needed for everybody. So everybody's process of changing their career or finding a new career is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to involve different activities and at times a little bit more time on one thing and a little bit more time on another. So the first thing we have to do is we have to identify where I am now in my career. And most of you already know where you are. Maybe you're a new graduate. You could be newly unemployed. Maybe you're newly inspired to make a change, as was the case with Karen. Maybe you've been thinking about a change for a while, but you just didn't make any steps forward. And now could be a perfect time to actually make the change. So first thing you have to do is just figure out where you are and what it is that you want to change. So the next thing, we start our information gathering phase of our planning. And we start to think about why we want to make a change and why now. Okay, so before you make any change, understand what it is about the current situation that you want to make the change, that is causing you to want to make a change. And I always think about it in terms of positive and negative stimuli. And really, when I've made changes in my career, I've actually taken out a sheet of paper and I've listed the positive stimuli and the negative stimuli that are causing me to want to make a change right now. And so positive stimuli could include my field. I might want to go into another discipline. That's part of what Karen's change is about. She's going from healthcare education and community activism into management of information systems. Perhaps you want a higher appointment. Perhaps you want or you need to move to a new location. Again, Karen's situation. Or maybe the industry. Maybe you want to change organizations or the industry altogether. Maybe you want to go from working in a hospital to an agency, or you want to get out of healthcare altogether and just bake cupcakes. Well, that's great. All of those are positive stimuli. Now, there's also negative stimuli that may be influencing your choice right now, your power, your choice to make a change. And they could involve job tasks that you're doing right now at work. Perhaps they're boring, maybe they're not challenging, maybe they're uninteresting to you. Maybe you've been doing them for quite a while and it still is uninteresting to you. Maybe you have a situation where you are involved in a negative work environment. Maybe you have a toxic team or a lunatic boss. Those things certainly can influence somebody to want to leave, and probably sooner rather than later. Resources. Resources could be a positive stimuli. Maybe you don't have resources, but you're thinking you could get resources from another organization or another agency or what have you. But resources, we all know in healthcare, are very low at times, and there can be a lack thereof, and there could also be even broken equipment, which means you're not able to excel at your job. You're not able to excel in your profession if you don't have the resources. And of course, another stimulus might be the salary, that you want a higher salary, or you might even need a higher salary given your situation. Now, there's one other stimulus that I listed here, which was not having a job. And I put it right there in the middle because my viewpoint is that this is both a positive and a negative stimulus, and you can look at it in both ways. And, I have been in situations, and a lot of my clients have been in situations where they haven't had a job for a long time. And like I said, it gets you down after a while, absolutely. But it allows you to have your eyes open, and you start to see opportunities and connections and experiences that you might not have ever seen had your head been so buried down in that job that you were in, that negative job or even that positive job that you had before. So not having a job can actually give you a more holistic viewpoint of the lay of the land and what types of opportunities are out there. And you might even be able to see that you could create opportunities if there are no opportunities that fit your specific needs and wants. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So don't ever think that it's just a negative, that I need a job, so that's negative, I need a job right now because I don't have one. It's a very positive thing that you don't have a job. It allows you, gives you a little bit more freedom. So I want you to think about that. Okay, so now we want to differentiate between our needs and our wants for our next opportunity. And this is very important too, because at times, I have found, not at times, excuse me, what I found, particularly with people with your education, your background in the healthcare industry, is that your skills are literally transferable to a myriad different places, to lots and lots of different industries, to lots and lots of different jobs that have nothing to do with healthcare. I'm going to show you some of those skills in just a minute. But I want you to recognize that if you choose not to be in healthcare, if you choose to go somewhere else, you can. And so because you have these amazing transferable skills and this extensive experience being a leader and a team member and having diplomacy and all sorts of wonderful business skills that can be transferred to any place, we have to find a way to narrow down the opportunities that you can choose, because otherwise you'll have infinite opportunities. So I'm going to show you a tool in a few moments that's going to help you with that. But the first step in starting to narrow down what opportunities would be right for you is to identify what you need and what you want out of your next opportunity, because those two are different. There may be some crossover, but they are different. So, for example, I may need more money. I may need, as in Karen's case, to live in New York City because of family. I might need flexibility for family, for my personal life, for my kids or what have you. I may need certain benefits like health insurance or other types of benefits. I may need time and resources and funding and other types of resources to work on my projects, to work on things that will help me excel in my profession. Those are needs. But then the wants come. I want to live in New York City. I want to bake cupcakes. That's what I want to do. I don't need to, but I want to. Maybe I want to switch from field X to field Y, or maybe I want to work in a different healthcare environment. In the case of Karen, she was, as you know, she's 54 years old, and she was starting to look towards retirement. And she was saying to herself, well, I've been doing community health education, particularly focused on childhood obesity issues for many, many years, for a decade, just with the South Carolina Department of Health. And she was terrific at her job. There's no doubt about that. And she was doing great. But she was saying to herself, well, I'm not really sure this is where I want to end my career. I may want to do something else before I retire. And so she was thinking about wants. And she was also thinking about needs. The move to New York City was a need. And probably, and the other issue that she was dealing with was that she recognized that she needed a new challenge. That was not a want for her. She needed a new challenge in her career because she'd done everything that she felt that she could to be successful in her previous career with the South Carolina Department of Health. So think about your needs and think about your wants. And I always say just be careful about the economy, because before you do make any change, even if you're somebody who is still employed and you're making a change across fields, across geographies, across industries, just be aware that we are in a challenging economic climate, and before you do make any change, just do as much homework as you possibly can. Okay, here's the tool that you're going to be using, hopefully you'll be using, throughout your career. It's a private tool. This is not something you ever need to share with anybody. You're going to use this to populate your resume, to populate your cover letter or your cold emails. You're going to use it to create your brand statement about yourself. You're going to use it to create your online persona, which the next webinar is going to be focusing on. This tool is just fantastic. So here's what it is, the skill and interest inventory matrix. So on the left-hand column there, we list every experience or job or internship or project or even a TA-ship from college or volunteer experience, or when I worked for McDonald's when I was 18 years old. You list every experience that you've had. And why do we list McDonald's when we're in healthcare? Because this is a private document, and there may be skills that you got from working at McDonald's that you may not list under McDonald's on your resume, but you can certainly draw attention to in your cover letter and in other places, maybe even in the interview, because they were so strategically important. For example, customer management, marketing, things of that nature, which I'll talk about shortly. So these jobs, that you could even include a project that you worked on for 2 weeks or a week. If you gained any of these professional skills, business skills, soft skills, and characteristics, or academic credentials from. So think about all of the different jobs you've had, and don't forget to list any community involvement you've had. In other words, if you've been on a board, or if you've been a volunteer, maybe you've been a volunteer for SurroundHealth communities. Maybe you have been on the board for your church or your synagogue. Maybe you volunteered for a local philanthropy. All those things can be listed as well, because it's a private document. Then we start filling in the matrix. Okay, so the first column is pretty clear. What academic credentials did I gain from that job or from that experience or from that course or what have you? We know what those are. But then the next column is the professional skills. So these are the skills that I want you to think about that define what you are as a professional in healthcare management, in healthcare education, in healthcare advocacy, as an RN, as a technician. Excuse me. All of these different jobs, think about what it is that you need, the skills that you need to actually do your job. And so they could be patient management skills, they could be data collection skills, they could be methodologies. You might be involved in the lab, so it might be involved in actually taking blood or dealing with blood or anything like that. It might be certain skills that you have on a particular piece of equipment or instrumentation. And certainly if you've worked in the computing or software end of things, certainly list those things as well. List the software packages you've used. List the computing programs that you know how to use. Database management, things like that. So these are the professional skills that you gained from each of these different experiences. Then I want you to think about the business skills. Now, a lot of people who are not in quote-unquote business don't realize that they're actually stacked to the brim with business skills. Let me tell you, I was in the ICU with a relative for 6 weeks a few years ago, and I saw the RNs taking care of this relative, and I saw the amazing business skills, just the business skills. I'm not even talking about the professional skills. I saw the amazing business skills that the RNs used with me and with my relative. I mean, it was just amazing. So one of them, of course, is risk management, safety protocol management, right? These are actual business skills, quote-unquote business skills, that businesses, hospitals, private corporations, and private entities, and even academic institutions respond well to if you can clarify that you actually have these skills. But let me start at the top. You know, if you had anything to do with resource management, resource allocation, financing, financial accountabilities or anything like that, then you have accounting training. If you have trained other people in your team, if you've hired people, if you've fired people, you have human resource and training experience. Maybe you're one of the people who was in charge of purchasing things, so you have procurement and inventory skills. And of course, you have patient relationship skills, but think about this from a broader view. A patient, in a certain respect, is a customer, so that means you have customer relation skills. Those skills are highly prized by many, many different industries. So you're starting to see how transferable your skills as a healthcare educator and as a healthcare professional are to other areas. And you have marketing and sales skills, because every time you go in there and you talk to a patient and talk to them about why they should think about doing this action, taking that action over this action, or maybe doing this particular type of activity instead of that, or maybe talking to your team members, or maybe giving a workshop or a speech, you are delving into marketing and sales. You're trying to sell a product, you're trying to sell a concept, you're trying to sell a report. And so that's marketing and sales right there. So don't sell yourself short. Just because you are in healthcare doesn't mean that you're not a business goddess. You probably are as well. As you can see, you have all these skills. So then the next level of skills, or the next column of skills, are the soft skills. So these are things that I call them soft skills. You could put them as hard business skills if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. The point is that these are some of the soft skills that you have developed as a healthcare goddess. You have extensively good oral and written communications. Obviously, you have to have that. Every day you're convincing somebody or a team of somebody about the importance of your particular project, the importance of your particular program. That's oral and written communications. You have leadership experience. You have team building experience. I bet you have diplomacy, and you absolutely have conflict management. You're able to handle conflict within teams, and most likely you're dealing with revolving groups of teams, which even expands on that level of conflict management expertise that you have. So it's really amazing, all these skills, these business skills and soft skills that you do have. And the last column here are things like, I call it my characteristics. These are things that are descriptors. You won't necessarily put this on a resume, but you can use it as a way to describe yourself in a cover letter, in your brand statement, or your 30-second commercial. You've heard those terms before, or even in your interview. And so recognize in this job, in this project, in this volunteer experience, what did I gain as a character from that? Did I recognize that I'm very detail-oriented? Did I recognize that I'm very results-driven? That I work well with large groups of teams, or I work well with small groups of teams? You know, think about the different things that you've developed as a person and the characteristics that you've gained that you can actually use to describe yourself. Because people really want, when you're going out for a job, they want articulation. Ultimately, whatever job you're going for, you're being hired. This is really important. You're being hired to solve problems. So if you can quickly and clearly articulate what your significant and specific problem-solving skills are, you're going to immediately have a competitive advantage to everybody else. Because most people don't know that, and they don't know to do that. They don't know to articulate the value that they provide to an organization through their problem-solving skills. And this inventory matrix here, the skill and interest inventory matrix, allows you to bring to the surface skills and problems, particularly problem-solving skills, that you have gained from all of these different jobs and experiences and projects, so that you can then communicate those to decision makers and hiring managers. So the last two columns on the matrix, I didn't actually put in the matrix, but there's two more columns, and they are probably the most important columns. And they are, what did I love, love, love about this particular job, this particular experience, and what did I loathe? What did I absolutely hate about this experience? And remember, I told you, you have so many transferable skills to many different areas in healthcare and even beyond, that we really need to be able to put some sort of border on your career search, so that you don't, so that you're not looking at infinite possibilities, and you're not looking in infinite locations as you access and try to assess what are the right opportunities for me. So go back and think about the different. So go back to that the matrix and think about these different experiences here on the far left-hand corner, the jobs you had, the volunteer experiences, and think about, what did I love about them? Did I love working at, from, let's say I had to get up every morning at 4 o'clock to, take certain type of data, working from 4 to 4. Did I enjoy working in New Jersey? Did I enjoy working in San Francisco? Did I love the people I was working with? Did I love the tasks? Did I love the skills I was using? Did I love the fact that I had a window in my office? All these little things I want you to be aware of what you love. And then I want you to think about the reverse. What did I hate? I hated living in Arizona. I hated not having a window with an office. I hated only talking to people once a day and then not talking to people throughout the entire day. That was just the way my day was organized. I hated, having to get up in the early hours of the morning to take data, to do samples. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. I hated this type of boss. I hated that type of thing. Again, this is a private document. But that loathing column, all the stuff that you hate, is really going to help put a border on this infinite possibility for careers for yourself, and it's actually going to help you figure out where you should go. Because if you really, really, really hate Arizona, and I'm making that as a joke since I'm based in Arizona, but if you really, really, really hate Arizona, then if you get a job offer in Arizona, you can immediately say, no, I don't want that job offer because I'm not going to go to Arizona. And it's similarly, if you really, 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 really hate working in public health for a state agency, then if you get a job in that, you can say to yourself, no, this is not the job for me. This is not the opportunity for me right now because this is not going to bring me happiness. And even when you're newly unemployed, even when you've been unemployed for quite a while, I'm not saying don't take a job that you might be able to use right now, especially if you need a job for salary purposes and for financial and family purposes. But I also want you to recognize that there's always the opportunity, there's always another opportunity, and if we can figure out what it is that we love and what we loathe, we can actually start seeing opportunities, creating opportunities, and making opportunities happen by talking to the right people. So just recognize what you love and what you loathe and use those as guidelines to make choices in your career. Okay, continuing on with the information gathering phase, one last thing I wanted to point out, which is that you have to also identify what else besides your own choices might be influencing your change, your career goal, your opportunity selection. And that could involve stimuli from your family. It could involve stimuli from your environment. It might be, for example, using skills that are high level but that might not be able to be utilized in the environment that you're in right now. So although you are in the driver's seat, and you are the one who holds the power, there are outside influencers which will impact your decision-making process. So next thing we want to do is we want to start looking outward. So we've looked inward, now we want to look outward. So we want to find out, as we conduct our research, for a particular career, for a particular change, what skills are needed, what opportunities exist, how people find out about these opportunities, what assignments are required, what are the entry points for these opportunities, what's the culture for the organization and for the vocation, what kind of resume and application is required, what are the deadlines for these opportunities. Karen, as she was starting her plan to transition into health information management systems, she did a lot of research. And she ended up figuring out that she wanted to choose to be, as she moved to New York City, she wanted to choose to be a full-time student for the next year to get a certificate, a post-baccalaureate certificate from an online university called Georgia Health Sciences University in health information management. And in doing her research, what she found out in terms of the opportunities and where they exist and how you get access to them and what those opportunities are, she realized that the opportunities are just expanding. There's, lots of opportunities to extract data. There's lots of opportunities to do information exchange and health information integration between two different systems. She could oversee information management in a major organization like a hospital or an agency. And she could also be involved on the security end of things, which is a growing field as well. So she saw that this is how you get access to these opportunities, which are plentiful, is by doing this type of a degree. In her case, she is going for a certificate since she already has her MCHES and her master's degree. So she realized that this was the best choice for her. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit, and she can talk to you as well about the type of research that she did. So how do you start your research? Talk to trusted contacts and mentors, obviously. Let's start with those people. And that's what Karen did. She started by talking to people that she knew. Then you should start also engaging trade organizations. Now, the list that I have here are just a few. I mean, on nurse.org, if you're not familiar with that, they list more than 50 different nursing organizations which have subspecialties and diversity organizations as well as state organizations too, based on nursing, based on just the field of nursing. So there's lots of different trade organizations, but think outside the box of the typical organizations within the healthcare arena. And this is what Karen did, which I was particularly impressed about. She not only thought about going to the American Health Information Management Association, but she also looked into the information management systems organization as a whole. So not just for healthcare, but for information management, for any field. And she used AARP. And it doesn't matter how old you are, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter. I go to AARP, and I'm a wonderful 22 years old, as you can probably guess. If you could see my face, you'd know very quickly that I'm 22 years old as well. But the point is that AARP has such great information about careers, about trends, about hiring information, and Karen used AARP as a resource online to be able to dig in and get information about the types of opportunities that she could pursue in health information management. So don't just think in terms of trade organizations, don't just think in terms of the health ones, but think beyond that too. For example, if you're interested in public affairs in healthcare systems, think about maybe joining or engaging the Public Relations Society of America, because not only will you get information about public relations and public affairs in healthcare arenas, but you'll get information in other arenas. You'll learn skills that are transferable to you and to your field and to your industry, and you might even find out about new opportunities where you could transfer your skills in new directions. Once you learn about these trade organizations, and I'm sure you all know about them, engage them. and this is, I think, something that most people don't even realize what that means. And what I mean by that is contact the leaders of those organizations and ask for informational interviews. Ask them, I'd like to learn a little bit more about, for example, if you're interested in transitioning into nutrition and dietetics. I'd like to learn more about that. I'd contact the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I'd contact their president or their secretary or whomever, one of their elected officials or maybe their executive director. And I'd say, I'd like to learn more about this. Here I am. I'm in this place. I'm in this time in my career. Would it be possible to make an informational interview with you just to learn a little bit more about the field and what type of opportunities are out there? These informational interviews are going to be very, 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 very important for you as you develop information and as you figure out what opportunities are right for you. So engage them, volunteer, go to their conferences, volunteer to work at their conferences, and interact and network with people at the conferences, and then also online. And the state chapters of these organizations, as well as other health organizations, are a great place to even begin the networking. If you can't go to the national meeting of the American Health Information Management Association, maybe you can go to the state chapter meeting, because you'll be able to meet people right then and there who are decision makers and have their pulse on what's going on in terms of the hiring trends in the region. Very important to know. Read their publications, network in social media. When you go on to, for example, LinkedIn, go and find the LinkedIn group associated with the American Dietetic Association or with the National Society of Public Health Education. Join the LinkedIn group, post to LinkedIn, make comments on people's posts, of course professionally, and let people see you. Be seen and see. And join listservs and contribute to the conversation. And of course, as a Surround Health member, this is a terrific resource. It's amazing what you can get out of Surround Health. So just as a quick thing, I'm sure many of you use this. I know this already, excuse me, but the topics area, which lists resources and articles and forums and jobs, it's just really unbelievable what information you can get from that. So I'd highly encourage you to really use that as a resource. And Karen used Surround Health as a particularly interesting resource. I thought this was very wise of her. She used it as she was writing her application essay to get into that post-baccalaureate certificate program. She needed to understand the right terminology and the vocabulary of the health information systems world, which was sort of a new world for her since she had been in community health education for so many years. So she went to Surround Health to learn what that language is, what that vocabulary is, so that she could incorporate it into her essay and make it sound even more professional. And in the end, it was a winning essay. She got into the program. Surround Health, as you know, also provides information exchanges. But the key thing with Surround Health and with any social media, and in general with networking, even in person, is that you need to be active. You need to post and you need to respond to posts. So as we continue conducting our research, we want to also gather information about particular regions. So we want to look, are they hiring? Did they just have a big layoff? Did they just get a huge loan from the government? And, I talked about you having business skills. And every organization ultimately is a business. And no matter what it is, even a university is a business. So if you contact the chambers of commerce, the regional economic development organizations for the region you're interested in, and if you read the business newspapers and the regional publications of the region that you're interested in, you'll actually gain a wealth of information. You'll find out who is hiring and who is firing and what's happening and who's growing and who just came in as the new decision maker just from the business newspapers alone. But use the business, sort of the business side, the business angle, as a way into the region and to the organization and to the industry that you're interested in. And then online sources like Yahoo and the Patch provide very highly localized content, which can also be of assistance. So now we're continuing with the information gathering phase. We want to find the right opportunity for me now. So we want to understand what our overall career goals are, know what we want and what we need out of the change. We want to figure out how this opportunity, if I choose this opportunity, how will it help me to achieve my career goal now and in the future, how to assess the opportunity, how to access the opportunity and how to assess the opportunity, and we need to understand the permanent, which can be very exciting, consequences of this opportunity. In other words, if I move to a new region, if I move to a new place, Am I going to be utilizing skills in a new environment? Are they transferable, and so on and so forth? So this slide right here is your personal checklist to figure out whether the opportunity that you're looking at right now is the opportunity for you right now. So use this as a resource. Okay, now we're going to develop the how, the strategic plan. So we've identified major and minor goals based on needs, wants, loves, and loathes. And perhaps the major goal is to get a job in federal government or a different sector of healthcare or a nonprofit. And maybe our minor goal is to live in the New York City area, maybe work in a different department. Now we have to start actually putting the pencil to the paper and deciding on deadlines, a timeline, maybe multiple timelines, and regular milestones. And we do this to, again, demonstrate our power, but also to help us see ourselves move forward. So if we say we're going to set our goal of a deadline for 6 months, and we're going to install a timeline where I do something during the first month, during the first week, during the first day, and then every day, week, and month, what am I doing? I'm going back and I'm looking, what did I do to achieve my goal or to work towards my goal? So you actually put that on paper. You can use your computer, of course, whatever's more comfortable and makes sense for you. But really do put this down so that you actually can figure out what it is that you're doing, make records of what you do every day so that you can see how you're moving forward. And if you find, because you need to be flexible, if you find that as you're going forward, you're not going as forward as you wanted to go, maybe it's month 5, you set a 6-month deadline for yourself, and it's month 5 or month 5.5, and you haven't gotten that job yet, and you haven't made as many inroads towards the job or towards the goal as you'd like, then we put in contingencies. We build a plan B, we build a plan C. We don't do that at month 5.5. We do that right now. So you're actually going to have several plans going at once. You're going to be focusing most on plan A, but you're going to have plan B and plan C available to you just in case plan A doesn't work out. And some of those contingencies might be what happens if I don't get a job in the time that I have allotted for myself. What if I get a job in less than 6 months but can't take it? Maybe it means a move, and for whatever reason, maybe I can't pull my kids out of school, or maybe I just physically cannot move across the country right now. What if I get an offer in a different field? People recognize my transferable skills to a different region, to a different industry, and an opportunity presents itself. What if I get that offer? Do I choose to take it? What if my current boss, who may be a lunatic, finds out I'm looking for a new job and fires me? So these are examples of some of the contingencies that you want to build into your plans, your plan A, your plan B, and C, etc., and you want to be able to address these if they come up. And recognizing that not everything will go according to your strategic plan and goals, so you must account for these unforeseen consequences right now. So make a list of the things that you think could come up, organize them, put them in your plan, put what day, what month, what week you're going to do this, 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 and this. Check off when you do it. Pat yourself on the back. If you fall behind, don't chastise yourself. Just keep going. You're still in control, and you're still doing amazing work. You're doing something very courageous. A lot of people would not even do a change in their career at all. So as we're continuing to be flexible, other things that we can incorporate into our other plans, plan B, plan C, etc., is expanding search parameters, figuring out what else I might want or need out of the change, figuring out what other opportunities would fulfill my needs and wants and career goals, and figuring also out what the impact would be of these different decisions. Okay, so now we're going to execute the plan. You land the opportunity. The opportunity has come. Now what do? Now's the time to make your final decision. And by now, I actually mean, by the word now in that statement there, I actually mean you've actually made your decision. You make your decision as you go along. You don't wait until the very last moment to make your decision, because as you've been building in your plan, part of the plan, part of your strategic plan is actually built into it, is how you will make your decision. But there comes to a time when you actually do have to say yes or no to a particular opportunity that is presented to you, and this is where you do make your final choice. Is this right for me right now? And if it is, then you have your exit strategy. You have to plan an exit strategy in advance. That should be part of your strategic plan, and it should be executed in such a way that you don't burn bridges. Your field of healthcare is teeny tiny. Your subfield is even smaller. And with social media, everything is teeny tiny, and your reputation is your greatest asset. Remember that. Your reputation is your greatest asset. So we want to make sure that it maintains absolute cleanliness, that it's totally pristine, and that when people are talking about you, they're only talking about how awesome you are and what a great worker you are and what great value and problem-solving abilities you provide their organization. So we don't want to burn any bridges because you may end up coming back to them. In Karen's case, not only did she not burn bridges, but she actually took on extra work. As she moved to New York City, she continued on contract with the South Carolina Department of Health to continue and finish up some of her projects for them. And I thought that was not only a great way to continue, of course, making money while she's in school, but also it helps to show that she's still a team member, that she's still going to help out her colleagues, and that really makes an impact on people. So stay connected with your colleagues in your previous organization. And you know what? This is a great time to invite them to join you as a connection on LinkedIn or on Facebook if it's a professional Facebook page. So in conclusion, if I haven't said it enough, let me say it one more time. You're in control. You're in the driver's seat. You're the one who's making the choices, and that's fantastic. So congratulations for realizing you need and you want to change and that you're willing to do something about it. A lot of people think, I do need a change. I want a change. This is a toxic environment, or I want to do this, or I want to bake cupcakes. But they don't have the bravery that you have to at least think about doing something about it. And that's really important. That really shows something about your overall professionalism and what kind of a person you are, too. Identify your needs, your wants. You want to differentiate between those, differentiate between your loves and your loathes, and also understand what your overall career goal is. Goes without saying, in a certain respect, conduct extensive research before making any change. Develop that strategic plan with flexibility and contingencies. Be professional. And professionalism is simply defined as being serious about your craft at all times. So we want to be serious about our craft at all times. So you're being professional, you're being a professional, and you're staying connected to the other people that have helped you in your career. Maybe you're going to be a mentor to them. And you're going to go forward, and you're going to have a great time. So I wish you the best of luck in your next adventure. So with that, I'll turn this back over to Dominica, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alaina. I wanted to give Karen just a couple minutes to say a few words to those who are attending the webinar. Karen?
Sure, thanks. To all of you, Alaina shared a lot of exceptional information about a process that could be very beneficial to all of you. But because she just had an hour, and as you saw, she packed a lot of information into that hour, she was only able to really pull out and highlight my successes along the way to illustrate the components of the process and how I work through them. But as all of you know, with any process, there are always some challenges. For example, I decided that I wanted to pursue a new profession, and that was going to require me to pursue another course of study. So I applied, I did the essays, the interviews, sent the transcripts, everything was fine, I was accepted. But in that acceptance letter, I had a but. And the but was, we need you to complete 4 prerequisites. And those prerequisites were courses that I had already taken, but because I took them 30 years ago when dinosaurs were still roaming the earth, they didn't count anymore. Obviously so, because so much has changed in every discipline over the last 30 years. They were requiring me to take these 4 prerequisites. And they were things like health resource management, managerial accounting, things like that. So it really caused me to pause and think, do I really want to go ahead with this change? This is a challenge. This is something that I didn't expect. I didn't expect the added expense of the prerequisites. I didn't expect the time I was going to have to devote to prerequisites. Is this a red flag, and should this be a time where I really decide, do I go ahead or do I turn around, make a U-turn, and go back to where I was? So what I decided to do was to take one online course and just see how it went. So I had to go through all the process of that, making sure it transferred. But what I found was I really enjoyed the course, and so I went ahead and took the other 4 prerequisites, and that challenge really became beneficial to me. I got used to studying again. I became familiar with Blackboard, which is an instructional system that this university used, plus the university that I was going to be starting my HIM program in. And so it ended up being a great benefit to me, but it was really considered to me very much of a challenge when I first heard that I was going to have to take these prerequisites. So the reason I'm sharing this story is my suggestion to all of you, if you're considering making a career shift and going through this process, really divide the process into incremental steps. And as you complete each step, or as you jump over a hurdle that may be presented to you, do a mini self-evaluation and not only evaluate how you were able to make it through the step or how you were able to jump over the hurdle, but really do an evaluation on how you feel about each step and how you feel about jumping over that hurdle. Does it inspire you? Did it encourage you to continue? And that was the case for me. But as Alaina mentioned, you may go through these steps and decide, you know, this really isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, so I may need to look at my plan B or plan C. And plan B may be that this isn't the right time for me to make this career shift, or plan D may be I have a better understanding of what I do. I decide, since I've stepped away from it, that I like what I do, and I want to go back and just continue doing what I'm doing. So I think in conclusion, if you're curious or interested in exploring a career change, take those initial steps that Alaina talked about, that information gathering steps, the needs and wants inventory, do some reading, talk to some people. These are all steps that don't require a lot of money to do. They also don't require an extensive amount of time to do. They surely will give you that initial feel of what it's going to be like to go through a career change. So take those initial steps, decide whether that's something that you want to do, and then enjoy the journey as you make it through those steps in that process.
I like your point, Karen, about the fact that it might be after you do all of this evaluation, self-evaluation and research, that you find that you actually want to stay where you are, or you want to stay where you are with a couple of tweaks. And that's great, because then you've gained all this extra experience and even you've gained new skills, which you can now bring back to your current position or your current organization and approach it with more vitality, more vigor, just more excitement and more passion as well. And the other point that Karen made, which I think is really important, is the idea that you touched on, is the idea that we may fail, that as we go forward, you know, maybe our goal is to work for company X or agency Y, and we do 6 months of activity towards that goal, and then we fail. You know what? Maybe that wasn't the right opportunity for us right now. And you never know. If you keep your reputation stellar, if you keep connected with those people that you interviewed with, that you interacted with, if you send them a thank you note for any assistance that they provide you, and bring them into your LinkedIn connections or bring them into your network, you never know. They may end up hiring somebody who doesn't work out at all and might come back to you in 6 months and say, you know what, we want you to come in and work for us. And that actually happened to me. So I just want you to recognize that failure is not a problem. Failure is fabulous. You can learn a lot from failure. And you know, the business world, believe it or not, actually loves failure, particularly the entrepreneurial world. Investors look for serial entrepreneurs who have failed multiple times before they invest millions of dollars in their companies, because they know that if they have failed, they will have learned from that, and they will have gained skills that will make sure they don't fail next time. So even if you fail as you go forward, don't look at that as anything bad. Look at that as a learning experience, and you can actually gain a lot from it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alaina, and thank you, Karen, for sharing your story. So we did get a couple questions. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted them. So Alaina, the first question is, what do you recommend I do to differentiate me among the many job seekers that are currently out there right now?
So there's a couple of different things. It's a broad question, but it's a good question. And there's a couple of different things that you can do. So first of all, you definitely want to have an online persona. More and more recruiters and decision makers and hiring managers, and I talk to them daily because I write about this in addition to giving workshops. I write about career issues. And I talk to recruiters and decision makers, and this is what they're telling me. The online persona, the LinkedIn profile, for example, that is what when you apply for a job, that's the first thing that people go to. They go to take a look at that. So the first thing I would do is I would make sure that I have an online persona, preferably in a LinkedIn page, but maybe elsewhere as well. And I'd make sure that if I have a personal website that is good, that it provides a good portfolio of what I've done, that it's professional. No pictures of the kids here, no pictures of the dog and the fish, but just something that demonstrates your professionalism, your seriousness about your craft. The next thing I would do is I would make sure that I have a brand statement. So a brand is simply a promise of value. And I talked a lot about value, providing value and problem-solving abilities today. And when we go out for a job and when we go out in the world, we have a brand. Companies have brands. SurroundHealth has a brand, and you have a brand. Your brand, your personal brand, should be your promise to deliver excellence, dependability, and expertise in whatever it is you do. And so we want to make sure that our brand is consistent across channels. In other words, when we talk to somebody and we communicate our brand, our unique problem-solving abilities, that we're saying it in a way that they understand and that is equivalent to what I am communicating on my webpage or communicating on my resume or my cover letters and things like that. So we want a consistent brand statement across many channels. And the last thing that I would say that would really distinguish somebody, which is, again, a challenge that people have, is the idea of making sure that you are seen as a problem solver first. That whatever it is in that organization that you want to work for, you will solve their problems, you will add value to that organization, you will do so immediately, and you'll make the boss look good. Those are the three reasons that people make a final decision to hire somebody, by the way. That you will add value and you'll do it immediately, that you'll solve problems, and that you'll make the boss look good. So if you can communicate that, if you can articulate that in all of your different channels, on your resume, on your cover letter, in the interview, even in your follow-up thank you note, in your informational interviews, and in your networking, that's going to give you an advantage, and that's going to distinguish you amongst a crowd, a sea of people who are not sticking their heads up and going the extra mile to make sure that people really, truly understand their brand and what they can do for that organization.
Thank you, Alaina. So the second question is about an internship. So it seems that this person has been doing an internship for a while now, but unfortunately they haven't been able to build the skills within that particular internship that they would have liked for their future career. What do you recommend they do, especially because they cannot get another internship at this time?
Well, it depends on what the skill set is that they need or that they think they need. But one thing would be is if they can't get an internship is I would go to an organization like SurroundHealth, or I'd go to any of those trade organizations, and first of all, I'd arrange for informational interviews with any of those people who are either leaders in the organization, either salaried employees or elected leaders, to just find out, am I correct in that I need this skill set. I need skill set X or skill set Y if I want to go in this career. So first of all, just make sure you have your bases covered, that you really do need those skills. And then second of all, once you have the ear of these people in these different trade organizations and the state chapters and on the SurroundHealth forums and in other places like that, ask these people what their opinion would be as to where else could I get these skills. You know, maybe they have, particularly for people who are on an internship, maybe they would allow you to do an online project with them, or I should say a project remotely, if let's say you're not in the same city as them. Maybe they would take you on as an unpaid volunteer to work on a project just to gain those skills. And maybe it's a short-term project. Maybe it's just a month or two. It's not officially a quote-unquote internship, but it's some sort of experience where you can go back and say, look, I did this project, this was the value I provided, these were the problems I solved, these were the results of these were the solutions I came up with, these were the results of my solutions, and by doing this, I gained these skills. And I think that might be of value as well. And then the last thing is to go to the conferences. And like I said earlier, if you can't go to the conferences at the national level, go to the state conferences, because they provide a lot of training that you could probably get, and there are probably grants that you could apply for, particularly if you're a student doing an internship. I'm thinking you could probably apply for student grants to do that training. Or you could barter, can I do this training seminar for free, and in exchange I'll work, 10 hours or whatever for your organization. And you know what? In doing so, you'll now distinguish yourself. People will see you as a leader. They'll see you as this volunteer, and they'll start to see your brand. Your reputation will start to flow through a network. And the next time an opportunity comes up, your head is going to be the one that they're going to think of, because it's your head that's above everybody else's, because you did volunteer. You did make yourself seen and make yourself known. And in particular, you imprinted your brand and your reputation and your attitude on these different people while you were trying to educate yourself. And people really respect others who are constantly trying to improve their skill sets, constantly trying to improve themselves and educate themselves. Great question.
Okay, thank you so very much, Alaina. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but we do want to continue the discussion with questions within our webinar forum on SurroundHealth. Alaina has volunteered to be available for us for the next 5 days, so if any of you have any questions that you want to ask her, please join us. You'll be getting the link in the thank you email you'll be receiving from us. We just wanted to thank you all very, very much for attending. We really hope you found this webinar to be useful. We will be hosting our next webinar on October 17th, and that will be on using social media to help enhance your professional persona. So we definitely hope that you join us for that. Just a couple housekeeping rules again. Your webinar completion certificate will be available in your SurroundHealth profile starting next week. And again, if you complete your feedback survey at the end of this webinar, you'll be entered to win a 60-minute coaching session with Alaina. So we definitely hope you give us some feedback, which will be useful for us as we move forward. Thank you again very, very much, and we hope you found this webinar useful.
Thank you, everybody. Congratulations and good luck.